It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I got an email from a 17-year-old boy who was referred to me by somebody who apparently has been reading my stuff on my page, and he asked me to make this video to try to help his mom. I teetered with it for a while, but then I just decided, why not? So, here's the thing. First, I will tell you that unless they're ready, sweetheart, they're not going to get any kind of help. She literally has to be ready in here. But, I'll do what you asked. There are a whole lot of people who have heard my story as to why I got sober and how hot of a mess I was. But this is the first time that I'm ever actually putting it out there. Alcohol has been a part of my life since I was a little youngin'. You know, when we were kids, Christmas and holidays and stuff, bourbon sours were okay. Little Budweiser nips were okay, and that's the way we was raised. I did not drink every day. I was a blackout drunk, and my attitude was, well, if I don't remember it, it didn't happen. And I lived like that for many years. So I'm not really quite sure ever where to start these things. So I usually just start it where my life has took a change. I was a rebellious kid. Go figure. And my mother used to put me in what I lovingly refer to as kiddie jail. You know, from the time I was 9 until on and off until I was about 12. And when I was 12, I was a typical rebellious teenager. I didn't want to follow rules. I didn't want to do anything. And they gave me a roommate who was just as rebellious, which was really a bad idea. So we decided that we weren't going to follow the rules, and we were just going to take off, and we were going to go AWOL. We actually climbed out of the second story window on top of the air conditioner downstairs and just took off. And to me, it was fun. It was an adventure. I had no idea where we were going. And I didn't care. I was free. And there were no adults around me to tell me what to do, and I did what I wanted to do. And we were hanging out with this individual's boyfriend and all of his little friends. Now, I can tell you that this is the one time that alcohol did not play any part in it for me. We hung out on the block for quite a long time, and then we went back to her boyfriend's house, and they were partying and whatnot, and finally everybody left, so I went to sleep. And I woke up, I don't know what time it was about 3, maybe 4 in the morning, and there was a TV on a dresser in front of me, and the room was dark. And there was somebody sitting in front of me with his chair turned backwards, and he was talking, but to this day, I can't tell you what the hell he was saying. And all I saw was a silhouette. Well, somebody grabbed my arms, and somebody grabbed my legs, and there were 5 of them. They decided to run a train. I was a virgin. And when I told the girl that I went AWOL with the next day, she thought it was funny. And I couldn't figure out why. I found out when I was about 16 that they had paid her to bring girls down there to do that. So basically she set me up. And when we got back to the kiddie jail, to the boys I was easy. And to the counselors, I was this kid who has been through such a traumatic situation and needed help, but they couldn't do anything unless I opened up my mouth. And I felt like I was backed into a corner. And when I feel like I'm backed into a corner, I automatically run. And I did. I ran. Didn't have any idea where the hell I was running. My brain was all discombobulated and fucked up. And I was walking down this street, and it was after midnight, but I can't tell you what time it was. And here comes this little Mexican who decides that he's going to try what had happened the night before. Only this one, I kicked the shit out of. There was only one. And I called the police, and they knew just who I was talking about. So they went to his house, and they found him underneath his bed. Common sense should tell you if you didn't do anything wrong, you wouldn't be hiding. And when they called my parents to come and pick me up at the police station, you know, most parents show that concern and oh my God, somebody hurt my child. My mother, I love her to death. But she walked in and she was like, how dare you embarrass this family? You deserve what you got because you didn't belong there. So needless to say, I never told her to this day about the night before. And when we went to court for this guy's arraignment, I guess my mom thought that we were so important that the judge was just going to listen to us. You know, she didn't realize that he had a whole city of cases that he needed to hear. So when she walked into the courtroom, she got embarrassed and she dropped the charges. 4 or 5 days later, he raped and killed a 4 or 5 year old little girl. And that stuck with me. And that pretty much just twisted my brain for the rest of my life. I got married and had the first baby by 14. By the time I was 16, I had 3. And married to a junkie. And the one decision I can honestly tell you at that very, very young age that I made that was the right one was that I could not raise those kids. I had no education. I was young. I was having a basic nervous breakdown. So I left them with their biological grandparents, my in-laws. That was the best thing that I could have ever done for them. And so here I was now in you know, 18, 19. I'm on my own. I had this little, I lived in a rooming house. I had one little room, and that was fine for me because I was never home. I got a job in a Spanish nightclub. And part of a bartender's job is to drink. And I didn't like the hangovers. You know, at first I really didn't like the booze. So somebody handed me this little silver package and said, here, go in the bathroom and do a couple of lines of this and you'll be fine. And I was. So cocaine and booze became a regular with me. You know, I discovered that the more I sniffed, the more I could drink. And that's how I raised myself. And I left after a while I left the Spanish nightclub and I started working in a strip club. It wasn't too long before I was up on the stage and drinking and getting high and partying, and that whole entire lifestyle became consistent. But I didn't have a problem. You know, I knew the signs of alcoholism. I have a brother that by the time he was 16, he was a bona fide alcoholic. And so I knew the signs. And they didn't pertain to me. You know, an alcoholic was, to me, was somebody who would drink out of paper bags and would drink shit like alcohol and would get the shakes in the morning, and that wasn't me. So I lived this way for many, many years. And then I met Anthony's father, and I figured all my prayers have been answered. And he was really a sweetheart for the first couple of months. And then the beatings started. And he just about broke almost every bone in my body. I've got scars all over my face. I've got bite marks over my eye. And I knew that I probably should have gotten out of there. But my self-esteem was just nothing. You know, and that's the way the relationship went. He had me convinced that every time he put his hands on me, I deserved it. And so I get pregnant, and now all of a sudden in my twisted little young brain, I'm thinking, well, this will make life all better. Not so much. First I was pregnant with a little girl and she died. And then I got pregnant with Anthony. And it really didn't make anything any better. You know, I got thrown down the stairs and landed on my ass, and Anthony was born 3 months early. And I remember being in the hospital, and as we were leaving the hospital, I said something about, if it wasn't for you, he wouldn't be here this early. And he smacked the shit out of me right there in front of everybody in the hospital doorway. I didn't think twice about it. So finally I got away from him, and I went back to what I knew. Now I had to raise this small child, and so I went back to work in the bars. And it got to the point where I would leave him with the babysitter, and it was only supposed to be while I was at work, and I wouldn't show up until the next day. And at no point in time did I ever think that this was a problem. I just figured it was normal. You know, I lived upstairs from one of the bars that I worked at. And so when I wanted to go out and hang out downstairs, or if I had to work, NyQuil became my babysitter. And at no point in time did I ever think that that was unmanageable. You know, Christmas at our house was not this big, lavished Christmas tree and whatnot like it was when I was a kid. I'd get Anthony a really, really, really big stocking, and I'd stuff stuff in it and hang it on his bunk bed, and that was it. And at no point in time did I think that that was unmanageable. After hours became a regular. I would go to work and work till 3 in the morning, and then I would go to the after hour and stay there until like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Left the son at home with my ex. So basically, I guess you could say that I really didn't raise him. And here I thought I was the mother of the year, because he had clothes on his back, he had a roof over his head, and he had food in his stomach. So in 2003, it was a constant thing. If I slept at all, it was very minimal. And drinking and getting high was just, that was my life. And my oldest son, who was raised in Alabama, invited me to his high school graduation. And if you've ever been in Alabama for like the first time, there is a peace in Alabama that you cannot find anywhere. And I fell in love with that, and I knew that things needed to change. So after the graduation, I went back home. I packed up my son, and I just took off. I'm thinking this is going to be my chance. You know, I'm getting reunited with the kids, and I can calm down and live some kind of normal, happy. Yeah, no, not so much. Then I became the cool mom. I was the mom that was out partying with these kids. You know, and at no point in time did I think that that was unmanageable. I put the coke down, and that was it. But the drinking started. And I can remember playing shot glass checkers with my daughter at 9 o'clock in the morning and being shit-faced by 9:30. Didn't think it was unmanageable. But in Alabama, in Ohatchee, Alabama, there's one red light in the whole town. And after about a year, it got to be kind of crazy. So my ex-mother-in-law decided that we were going to move to Florida. So we go from Ohatchee, Alabama to Jacksonville, Florida, where there's a bar and a club and everything on every corner. So that's when the real partying began. I would have 20, 30 people in my house every night. Partying with the crunk juice and playing the spades and just getting wild. And I'm talking kids anywhere from like 16 and up. And the way I saw it, well, they're partying in the house. They're not running the streets. What difference does it make? They're in good hands. That's the way I justified it. My attitude towards my youngest son was, I've taught you to cook, you have a house key, you're on your own. And at no point in time did I think that that was unmanageable. One night in a drunken stupor, Anthony pissed me off, and I tried to throw my child out of a second-story window. And had it not been for all those people in my house, I probably would have. Didn't think it was unmanageable. You know, I was starting to get out of control, and I didn't realize it. And I couldn't figure out why Anthony was running the streets and running such a muck. Because I was the best mother in the world. Damn it, man, my child should not be doing this shit. Basically what he was doing is he was starting to follow after my footsteps. He was starting to drink and he was starting to get high and he was running with the wrong people. And I didn't see it. I started to black out more. I was out in the clubs wilding out and basically making an ass out of myself. Somewhere in Jacksonville, somebody has a picture of me in my front yard pissing with my 2 dogs. I'm actually waiting for that to resurface because I know it's gonna. And I just thought in my head, you know, everything is normal. This is the way life is supposed to be. You know, I met my wife, and according to her, she knew I was a raving alcoholic when she met me, and she stayed anyway. I think she's crazy, but I'm glad she did. I don't remember my wedding night because after the wedding I decided that I wanted to go to Metro and hang out. So in my wedding dress there are actually pictures of me shooting pool. I don't remember leaving Metro. And I started to notice alcoholic behavior. I would drink and then I would hide the bottles and not even really knowing why. Because, you know, Vicky knew I was in there drinking, so it was just one thing after another. The blackouts became more frequent. And I remember calling up my brother one day with a gallon of rum in one hand and the phone in the other, and I'm like, well, do you think that maybe if you're having more blackouts than normal, like as if there's really such thing as a normal blackout, that it's a problem? And my brother was very, very calm and very sweet about it. And he said, yeah, it may be something that you might want to look into. I hung up the phone with him and I thought about what he was saying and I was like, nah. And I finished the bottle. And I didn't get sober for 2 or 3 more years. You know, when I was with the group, we were down in Orlando for Gay Days, and it was the first time. This was 2010, and it was the first time that we were down there. And Sway and I were walking around the pool, checking things out. And I walked past this little tiki bar with this really cute bartender, and I asked her for a vodka and cranberry. And I remember Sway telling me, Pop, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. My response was, I got this. You could always tell that I was going to get tore up when I got this came out of my mouth. So by the end of the show and whatnot, I was completely and utterly shit-faced. I embarrassed myself, I embarrassed my wife, I embarrassed the group. And everybody was so pissed off at me that they probably wanted to put me up against a wall and just start shooting. And I didn't remember anything from the night before. So I decided that I was going to go to AA and get my little white chip. And everybody would stop being pissed off at me. And then once they were, it would be go back to business as usual. I managed to stay like that for 44 days. And I can tell you that, yeah, I got drunk, but I did not fall off the wagon. I was pushed. One of my fans, who is now a very, very good friend of mine, asked me to perform in their wedding. Not at the reception or anything like that. I was actually part of the ceremony. And to an entertainer, that's the world's biggest compliment. So at the wedding reception, I'm thinking in my head, I'm not saying nothing, but I'm thinking in my head, well, maybe, you know, I don't have a problem because I'm around all this booze and it's not phasing me. I'm drinking soda and I'm good. It was me, my son, who was 18 at the time, and my wife sitting at a table, and I asked my son to go get me a soda. I'm in full drag. It's Georgia and July. And I watched him pour the soda in the glass, and he says, Mom, he was like, I took the last one. So I watched him pour the soda in the glass. I wasn't thinking nothing of it. I grabbed it, and I drank about 3/4 of it before I realized it was Hunch Punch. My darling child decided he was going to pour the soda thinking it would take away the taste and the smell of the alcohol. And there's this thing that they call a phenomenon of craving. It's basically why we can't stop once we start. And I remembered that. So I decided it was time to get out of there. And I went to go get my stuff, and the last thing I clearly remember is talking to this guy outside the door, and he handed me a shot, and I physically and mentally could not put that shot down. I remember not being able to put that down. I knew I should. I held it up to my lips, and for about 5-10 minutes I just held it there, trying to prove to myself that I didn't have this problem. Well, needless to say that that was a fight that I lost. In biblical proportions, I went on a 9-hour binge. I don't remember anything. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember getting to my friend's house. Apparently my wife had to have them help get me out of the truck. And this person basically saved my life that night, and I can honestly say that, because she knew, she had been around me for so long, she knew what my attitude was. Well, if I don't remember it, it didn't friggin' happen. So she videotaped my last drunk, and then after they shut off the videotape, they got me in a lazy boy, because that's basically as far as I could get. And they thought I passed out. Well, according to my wife, I got up out of the lazy boy. I walked clear across the house. I stood in a corner like a child in timeout and pissed myself. And then I fought everybody for trying to clean me up. I woke up the next day, I was still drunk. And throughout the day, I felt like shit. Not only like hungover like shit, but mentally I felt like shit. I knew I screwed up. And so this friend of mine, just real nonchalantly, and I had been waiting for it all day, was like, so, what happened last night? And I promise you I meant this shit at the time. I was like, well, you know, I go to these meetings and I listen to all these people talk about this tragic shit. They're sleeping under bridges, they lost their wives, they lost their kids, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I just don't think I hit a bottom. Almost on cue. She said, no. She grabbed me by the hand, pulled me in the house, threw me on the couch, and turned on the TV. I will tell you that if it wasn't for my ink, I'd have swore up and down that that person wasn't me. My face was swollen from all the alcohol consumption. My hands were swollen. I could not hold myself up in a sitting position. And it was like watching Jekyll and Hyde meet Sybil. It was the most horrific thing that I had ever seen in my life. And I couldn't, there was no more denial. Like, it's right in front of me. There's no more denial. And someone in the video asked me either who my wife was or where she was. Vicky was right here, holding me up, looking me dead in the face. And I looked her dead in the face and said, I don't fucking know. My wife is the most passive, understanding, sweetest person on earth. And the look of hurt on her face just pretty much did me in. I only watched about 10 minutes of the video before I had to get up and walk away. I couldn't watch it anymore. And I went back into my little meetings, and my attitude then became, I'm broke, how do you fix me? I've done a lot of changing over the last 3 years. And I keep trying. I'm a work in progress. But my life is so much better now. Today I know that whenever something goes wrong, I'm not going to find the answers in the bottom of a bottle. I do know for a fact that if I go back to drinking, I will pick up exactly where I left off. And I drank like a 6'7", 800-pound man. You know, I didn't drink like a girl. Jim, Jack, and Jose were 3 of my favorite men. And I'm actually surprised that I still have a liver. You know, God was definitely watching over me. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, I'm a work in progress. But my life is a whole lot better now than it was back then. And I smile more. I can still go to places that serve alcohol and it doesn't faze me, because I had to literally work the hell out of my program, and I think I was ready. You know, even by the time I saw that videotape, I was like, I can't do it anymore. And every time the thoughts still come. I still think about it every now and then. But they don't last as long as they used to. And whenever I seriously start toying with the idea, it's more than just a thought, I'm toying with it, I will remember that videotape. And that's a person I don't ever want to go back to. You know, as bad as it gets, that is a person that I never want to be again. And I kind of like life. If I go back out, I'll probably drink myself to death. I was very, very lucky over the years that I didn't. But I probably will. So, this is kind of like a to be continued type thing. Because I live every day, one day at a time. Knock wood. July 18th, I will be sober 3 years. Now, there are some people that don't believe that, and they think that whenever I go out of town, I'm getting shit-faced. But anybody who knows a real alcoholic knows that we can't control our drinking in any way, shape, or form. I could not go out of town and get shit-faced and then all of a sudden come home and go back to controlling it. It doesn't work like that. If I go back out, I'm going to be off and running. So I hope, sweetie, that this helps. You know how to get a hold of me if you need to. Oh, that's the short version of the story.